Hello everyone, and welcome to the Good Dialogue podcast. Now today, I have a very interesting person. She is great at podcasting. She's even got a Guinness World Record for podcasting. So, hello Jen.
Hi, Lauren. It's so good to hang out with you today. Thanks for having me on your show.
So, let's get to business. So, I am currently looking at your website whilst doing this. So let me get tab up. And then the website up. Difficult. So here we go. So I am on your advocacy page, and it says military families are far from the average American family.
Mm-hmm.
And this start-off page says whether your elective duty, while elective duties, families learn resilience, resourcefulness, team management, organizational skills, delayed gratification, and many others. So, is your family from a military background?
Yeah. So Lauren, a little background on myself. My parents were actually from the Philippines, and my dad, both of them are a family of farmers. So my mom and my dad were farmers. And how do I say it? Oh, yeah. So my dad actually really loved farming, but I heard through the stories that I've heard about my dad, that his dad, my grandpa, told him to not just farm, but to join the military, to join the American military. And I guess he wanted my dad to have like more opportunities. Not that there's anything wrong with the Philippines and a third world country, but either way, his dad felt like he needed him to join the military. So he brought he brought my mom with him, and they were first stationed in Japan, and then that's where my brother and I were born. And we would move every 2 to 3 years or so, typically from Japan to the States, up until at least when I was 10, when I unfortunately lost my dad while he was on active duty. And so from there, my family and I moved back to the States, and we pretty much have been here for, we were first in California, but I currently live in Virginia, the East Coast side of the United States, for the last 2 years. But yeah, so the military life is very familiar for me, and part of why I'm involved in the community today is because of my husband, who did serve. He's a veteran. He served in the military, I think, almost 15 years ago. And the work that we do together is actually for the military community. So, I'm just wrapped up all in that military life. I'm all about it.
Yeah, my father was in the RAF over in the UK, which is the Royal Air Force. So I sort of get military.
Yeah. So you're a military child.
Not fully military. He served for a couple of years before I was born.
Got it. So you're a veteran child.
So I sort of know. But how did military life impact you in a way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think the best way I can explain it is that it made me be the entrepreneur that I am today, because we moved around so much that I just wasn't comfortable having a stable job. I even tried after I finished college, I even tried to get employed, and I got fired like 4 times consecutively in my young 20s. And so my friends, yeah, it's awful. I'm like such a bad employee. And then, and so my friends were like, Jen, I don't think you're meant for a job. I think you're meant for something else. And, here I am 10 years later, having lived this entrepreneurial life, currently on my third business venture, and having the luxury and the fun of podcasting and talking to great people like you, Lauren. so so yeah, it's so interesting because it's like, and I imagine this is the same in the UK, but we all are kind of built to go to school, to get good grades, to get a good job, right, to get that house and the car. And the thing is, that's a good lifestyle. It's just not the only lifestyle. And so the military life really set me up for that.
I mean, I've got to agree with you that with me having a disability, I find it hard to get a job because of me being in a wheelchair. I thought, you know what, I've got a degree in media. I'll just YouTube and inspire people, which is how this came about.
Well, what do you know?
Came about. Because I don't want to sit around on my butt. Excuse the pun, but I'm always sad. So anyway, enough about me. Let's go on to you. So I am reading on your podcast page that you've got many different podcasts.
Yeah, I overdo it.
You've got Holding Down the Fort. The Filipino American Woman Project. Generic Conversations with Jen Amos. And The Thoughtful Entrepreneur.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've got 4. Why 4? 4 different topics.
Well, Lauren, I think it's because we all are multifaceted, right? We're all not just one of something. Like, you are not just your disability, you're a podcaster, right? Just like with me, it's like, I'm not just Filipino, like my family, I'm not just someone whose parents immigrated here, and I'm trying to find that balance with being Filipino and American. But I also have my military background, which is what Holding Down the Fort is all about, is honoring military families who, when you think about soldiers, you don't often think about the people they come home to. And so that's what that show is about. The other show, Generic Conversations, it's actually kind of a pun. It's supposed to be spelled with a G, as in the word generic, but I wanted to put my name in there. Right? Yeah, so Generic Conversations. And that's the kind of show it's currently on hiatus because I actually got hired to run The Thoughtful Entrepreneur, which is the 4th one you mentioned there. And I'm not on there yet, but you're going to be hearing me in the new year in 2021, interviewing incredible 6-7 figure business owners. And that's another part of me, is that I'm an entrepreneur. And so each podcast represents a different side of me. The Generic Conversations, I created that to have basically generic conversations, to have like just conversations about anything and everything with anyone, and really just what I liked about doing that show while I was doing it before I did The Thoughtful Entrepreneur is because I was just always like, I just have this deep desire, Lauren, to find common ground with everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter where you come from. Everyone has a story and everyone has a lesson that could be universal for everyone to learn. And so that's part of the fun I had with that show before it went on hiatus. But each podcast represents a different part of me. And I hope that it could be a source of inspiration to other people to explore different sides of you. Mine just happens to reflect on podcasting.
Well, I tell you when Generic Conversations comes back, I'll be happy to swap seats with you, and you can interview me for once.
Of course, Lauren. Trust me, this
That's,
is not the last time we're talking. We're
if that
friends
was just,
now.
if that was something you'd be interested in. Now, another reason why when I saw your profile match Maker FM, which is the site I found you on, is I thought you were interesting. Firstly, I admire that you're a strong female character whose parents are from a different background came to the States. You tried to find a mix between American and Filipino, but I didn't want to get political, but I've been dying to ask you this question. In today's current climate, does your family from the Philippines feel accepted in the States? Or
That's
do they,
it. That's Go
or do
ahead.
they feel like they're a bit outcast and they get abuse?
Hmm. Yeah, Lauren, that's a great question, and I'm always open to questions like that. So I appreciate you asking. No, I'm offended. Just kidding. This interview's done. No, I'm kidding. Um, Actually, it's interesting. So a little history about the Philippines. We were colonized by Spaniards for a couple of centuries. I think 400. I could get my numbers wrong, but I'm going to say a couple of centuries, and then America took over and colonized us for about, I think, 50 years until we became an independent state or independent country. So what that means is that when the Americans came into the Philippines, they essentially Americanized us. So a lot of us, a lot of the Filipinos there, English was part of the standard like language, like a second language that they would teach in the school system. And so, in asking about like, have are we considered like outcasts out here in America? I'd like to say that I think out of most of like Asian American families, I think that Filipinos tend to blend in the best because we had already been trained, to be Americanized in the Philippines before we even got here. It's not like we're trying to like purposely break the rules or anything. Like we are the type of class or a culture that we'll fall within the lines. We'll kind of like we're kind of called that the model minority, where like Asians don't cause trouble, like they pay their taxes, they're homeowners, they have full-time jobs, they go to school. Like we follow the American dream like to the T, I guess you can say, in a sense. And so however, my mom is the one who still has a Filipino accent. And fortunately for her, she works in the government where there are a lot of other people like her. So a lot of moms, a lot of the mom, like people that are like my mom there. And so I feel like,
See,
I feel like it's not so much, but I have to say that overall, my family hasn't directly been impacted by discrimination or racism or anything. If so, it's very subtle, but it's not, I've never heard from my family where it's been a situation that really like traumatized them or come back. Like I check in with my family pretty frequently and we're all doing well. Mom's an empty nester. My siblings and I are all working or studying to get a better job or whatever. So I have to say, like, for the most part, like my family seems to be okay. And because family is important to us, we stick to family, so we kind of lean against each other. And I think like, because you lean against each other, the only thing you deal with is like, problems within the family, but not so much of like the discrimination that could happen on the outside. So, but yeah, and then also the last thing I'll add is as an entrepreneur, I feel like I can get away with anything. I feel like who I am, who I look like or what I look like doesn't hold me back, because as an entrepreneur, you can do anything you want, right? You have like more flexibility and control of like who you want to be, what you want to do, who you want to serve. And I guess that's why I've been in this life longer than I've ever held a job. So,
Yeah.
does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. I appreciate you giving me a lot of answers
Yeah.
because a couple of other guests that have been on have just given me a couple of, at least you've gone into detail, which I appreciate
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, I'm glad. Well, I do what I can.
Right, another question I want to ask you. If you're watching this in video format, you can see that behind you, to your right, my left,
Here.
is, yeah, is a Guinness World Record official participant thing. Is that a certificate or a trophy of some sort?
Yeah. Let me see if I can grab it. Let's see. All right.
Careful,
Give me one
don't break
second
it.
here. Okay. So here's I actually just got this in the mail recently, a couple weeks ago, because so here's how the certificate looks like if everyone's watching video. So let me go ahead and read it to you. This is actually a world record that a conference I was a part of was able to achieve. And so I'll read it to you all, especially if you're a podcaster. I'm sure you'll appreciate this. So Podfest Expo is it's grown to be an international conference, but it primarily takes place in Florida in the United States. And during the pandemic, they wanted to do something really positive for the podcasting community. And so they decided to create something called Podfest Global. So it's a completely virtual conference. And their goal was to participate in a Guinness World Records by trying to break the record for, let me see here, for the largest attendance for a virtual podcasting conference in 1 week. So basically, they're trying to get the most attendance in 1 week of a virtual conference. And at the time, Lauren, the record, I think, was 5,000. And so if you look closely, this is actually really funny. If you look closely, we broke it at 5,003 attendees. So just by 3.
Oof. Just by 3.
Yeah, and I think we found out on like the last day that we were able to hit it. And I was very fortunate to be a speaker at this Podfest conference and participate. So it's just fun. Like during of all the crazy things that happened in 2020, it's just nice to know that like, oh, there's still things going on and people are still trying to make it happen. And I'm just happy to have been a part of it.
It's something positive to come
Yeah.
out of 2020 for you because there's been this big situation. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's called coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about it at all?
No, I just what a year, right? It's it's like my best friend that I don't. It's like that roommate that's not going to leave my house, right? Or just like the neighbor outside that's never going to leave, so I have to like stay home until they move out, which is I don't know when.
What's it like over there, pandemic-wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I imagine similar to the UK, a lot of things had shut down at the beginning of the pandemic. It really started to hit for us in, I would say, early April. We started to notice it in March, like people started talking about it and canceling things, but it was really April when everything really started to shut down. We couldn't do kind of just like the things that everyone enjoyed doing for fun. We couldn't go to festivals, concerts, couldn't even go to restaurants, right? And so we had to do like curbside delivery, right, to like pick up food or get our groceries delivered to our place. The biggest thing that I'm sure the UK experiences as well is just wearing a mask, like whenever you're out in public, right? And
for me, I'm on the exempt list in the UK, but I still choose to wear a mask because I'll tell you for why.
Mm-hmm.
over here, the news channels are
Mm-hmm.
constantly on here with figures and numbers and how many deaths there's been and
Mm-hmm.
what sort of vaccines there are.
Mm-hmm.
Stay safe, wear a mask. And I've found breathable ones. But
Mm-hmm.
anything I can do to protect me and my immune system,
Yeah.
because mine's a bit weaker than everyone else's,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it.
Yeah. So Lauren, have you gone out a lot? Like, have you been
But
out there?
over here, it's structured into 3 tiers.
Mm-hmm.
Tier 3 being the strictest tier,
Mm-hmm.
like on laser shop. Tier 2 being the medium tier,
Mm-hmm.
and tier 1 being the smallest tier. Now we're in tier 2.
Mm.
I've avoided going out, well, I still go out to like meet my friends at a social distance.
Right, right,
2 meters, 6 feet over there,
right.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think everyone's mental health has suffered globally,
Yep.
not just mine.
Yeah.
What about yours? Have you
Oh,
struggled to keep?
yeah, no, that's a good question, Lauren. I appreciate you asking. I think if there's anything that has come out of this year is that people are being more mindful of their mental health and checking in with each other. I mean, I started getting more on, we don't do this as much lately, but in the middle of the pandemic, my family and I would have video calls together like once a week just to, see how we're doing. And then also my husband's family, they do the same thing as well. We all check in with each other at least once a week or so. And, I have to say, mental health resources are extremely important to me. I don't get paid to share this, but one of my favorite sites, if anyone is just looking for a pen pal to just talk to anyone and anything about whatever's on your mind, 7 Cups is like the number 7 and the word cups is in plural. So 7 Cups. That's a free online platform where people are trained to be listeners, to listen to you anonymously and have someone to confide in. So it's a really great way to chat and just let things out. I have they call them listeners, so people who are trained to listen to you. So I have like 4 listeners on there that I confide in and check in with every now and then, and they've become my friends. But I've also turned it around to listen to other people as well, and it's all anonymous, which is fun. So I do that, and I like to promote that because very often when people say, oh, but mental health services are expensive, I say, well, here, try this for free. Try this for free, because sometimes we don't need help. We just need someone to listen to us. And then also, in addition to that, though, I am actively in therapy. I do have a couples counselor for my husband and I, and then I have a therapist for myself. And so I'm doing everything I can to just stay on top of it and say, oh, it's okay to get help and it's okay to not be okay. And Lauren, one of the fun things I picked up during the pandemic is swimming. The reason why is because our local gym here, they'll let you reserve a lane in advance. So you have the whole pool to yourself and you get to practice like social distancing. And it's like the one time where I can't be on my phone. It's the one time I can't work, and it's like time to myself, and it's very meditative. So it hasn't been easy. I definitely have those hard days. I think the important thing is to acknowledge that hard days and tough feelings are normal, and to get the help that you need, right? And so just because you don't have a physical disability doesn't mean you shouldn't get help, right? Like mental health is still health, and you still need to get, help on that. So I don't mean to sound like preachy, but I just say that because I think like people need to understand that it's okay to get help, right?
I think,
Yeah.
coming from my view, everyone who has disabilities aren't always visible. You can cover up mental health, you can fake a smile. it doesn't help you.
Exactly. I
Doesn't.
agree.
I did that for years as a
Mm.
teenager. Papered over the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help.
Yeah.
So, tell you what, this talk is really refreshing. So let's go back to, where is it? Hang on, my phone's locked. To your advocacy page. Bear with. And it says here that you work with, correct me if I'm wrong, the Trevor Project.
Oh yeah. So I don't work with them, but it's more of a resource for people. So this is actually
LGBT,
exactly, yeah.
because
So
I
any
did some reading.
yeah, yeah. So that page, I think that's the Get Help page, right?
Yeah,
You
that
know,
is.
in addition to Seven Cups, I just try to provide like other resources there that people can use. I personally haven't used them directly, but they very much remind me of, let's say, like the crisis text line and the National Suicide Hotline, where you can call in to just confide in someone, and I think people need to be
Yeah,
more aware that there's these types of services for them. And, I'm a big, rainbow flag ally. I definitely
yeah,
have a lot of queer friends in my not my family. I mean, within my circle of loved ones and friends. And, coming from California, where it's basically a big rainbow sometimes, depending on where you're going,
yeah,
it's a very important for me and to, celebrate sexuality. And unfortunately, there's a lot of our queer friends who don't have that safe environment to really be themselves or explore it. And so that's why I wanted to provide that resource on my website.
go you.
Yeah.
I admire you totally.
Shucks, Laura. I admire you. I love that we're having this
Literally,
conversation today.
literally. I mean,
Hmm.
to be fair, I had to cancel last time because I was sick
Hmm.
and I didn't have a voice, but I was just like, I can't do this today, so I quickly cancelled and rescheduled. But we all have days like that.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, so thank you for this talk today, Jam. I
Yeah.
really appreciated it.
Well, thank you
So
for the opportunity.
it's alright. You've been really informative, which is what I appreciate. So also, I would just like to put out there when generic comes back on, I'm happy to switch over about my life if you ever want me on.
Yeah. Well, we're friends now, Lauren. So that's probably going to happen.
Okay, so thank you for being on this. And if anyone wants to find out more about Jen, I will put the links in the box description if you're on YouTube, Facebook, and everything else. So thank you, Jen, for agreeing to this.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you. Thank you
Alright,
for what you do.
you're welcome. Alright.